Hey, I'm Luke. This is Isaac with me. Today we're doing the first annual student-teacher draft. This is the 2026 edition. Let me give it to Isaac so he can explain the rules.
So I'm sure all of you are familiar with how a snake draft works, but we're basically going to be going through a list of teachers. We'll pull one from each department: science, math, social studies, language arts, and our elective teachers, which is a very long list that we have here.
But we only get one.
But we can only pick one from each department. And it'll basically work how a snake draft works. You know, he'll go first, and then I'll go again. Then he gets, kind of like first, second, third round pick, stuff like that.
Let's get into it. All right, to start off this draft in the first round, I'm going to choose Gary Goodson. I'm choosing him today because I think he has some of the best student-teacher connection in the school, and I think he made learning very fun.
Okay, my first round pick is going to be Miss Lana Cannon. I think she's been very impactful in my life, and I think she's the only science teacher I've had since freshman year, and she has left a huge impact on my life, and she's very influential, and she has a lot of good advice to give me. All right, for the second round pick, my first pick is going to be Miss Amanda Ginn. She's really smart. She teaches more in her math class than just math. I think she teaches a lot of life lessons, and she wants to make sure that seniors, before they leave, that they leave with the idea that success is more important than most of the things in your life.
I'm going to go on the language arts category, and I'm going to get Sexton. Now, Sexton doesn't currently teach language arts, but freshman year I had him in language arts, and I would like him to be my language arts teacher forever if I had the option. That is why I chose him, because he was my favorite teacher my freshman year. To start off the third round, I'm going to go in the math category, and I'm going to choose Miss Brittany Brown. The reason why I choose her is not because of her class, even though it's very rigorous and very good for you, going on to the next level of education, but it's really just for her as a human being, as her being one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life, and one of the nicest souls I've ever met. She really does show happiness in her classroom and push it off to others, and I feel like walking into her class every day does make you at least a little bit happier. That is why. Thank you, Miss Brown.
All right, so for my third round pick, I'm going to go to the elective category, and I'm going to choose Miss Irvin. Miss Irvin, I think, has, in the short span that I spent with her last semester, she stuck out to me more than most of my teachers, I think, especially the elective teachers, because she makes the effort to get to know you. And I appreciate Miss Riles too at the start of the culinary pathway for helping me. She's no longer working here at this school. But Miss Irvin definitely was really good about helping me finish that pathway, and it's one of the only pathways I finished where I actually am getting a cord for a graduation. And Miss Irvin, like I said, she gets to know you. She doesn't just treat you like you're just one other student out of the 1,000 students that she's going to teach eventually at some point in her life. She gets to know you personally, and she makes a connection with you. And that's another one of those things where it's just the emotional support and the support. She's the type of person you can reach out to once you graduate high school that is going to be able to help you throughout your life. And so I think I really appreciate her for that. Thank you, Miss Irvin. My fourth round pick's from the social studies category. I'm going to choose Ben Thacker. I think he was the type of person, he was just very understanding, when you explained to him, why you didn't understand something, or, what to do to help you fix that something, and then he would tell you, and he left it up to you whether you actually did it or not. And I guess that helps build up a mindset that's useful for you throughout your whole life, because you're always going to have someone that gives you the basics, but it's up to you what you do with that knowledge that they gave you. And I think Thacker taught that very important lesson very well, and that's why I chose Ben Thacker for my favorite social studies teacher. So thank you, Mr. Ben Thacker.
For my next pick in round 4 of the teacher draft, I'm going to go to the electives category, and I'm going to choose Will Bryan. Now, this might be bad, but I've never had his class, but he is absolutely shredded. And I do look up to him as in a way that he shows kids what is possible in a way. So like when you say you can't do something, he can show you that it is possible at some point in time. And he is there for others. Like I've talked to him at a school before, and he's a very nice guy. We've had problems, and we've both like been agreeing on that and like fix those problems. So I'm very thankful for him, even though again I've never had a class with him. But again, it doesn't take a class to like somebody. So thank you, Will Bryan. For the fifth and final round, as the first pick of the round, I have one category left, and it is science. It was a hard selection because I love all the science teachers equally. My final choice is Walker Heron. Never had a class with the guy, but every time you see him, he's the nicest guy you know, and he always makes you laugh a little bit. So thank you, Mr. Heron.
All right, so for my fifth and final selection, I'm gonna be choosing Miss Elizabeth Ward. Even though I only had her 1 year, I think, and that was my sophomore year, and she set the basis for me when it comes to actually like striving to do better, specifically in class. She set the basis for like how hard like the high school life is gonna be. I think she set the bar high for me when it comes to ELA teachers. And the class wasn't exactly the hardest class I had, but it pushed me to do better. It was the first class, since I didn't really stress at all over classes, middle school, elementary school. I've always been smart. And then I got into a class like Miss Ward's class, ELA. It was the first hard class I had in high school that actually made me feel like I was smart, because I wasn't surrounded by people who weren't as smart as me. I think everyone in that class probably had a higher grade than I did, but she really she really wanted you to do good. She wanted nothing more than for you to better yourself in the sense of classwork, and I think that's why I'm choosing Miss Ward. So thank you, Miss Ward.
If you didn't get picked in this draft, everybody loves you here. Everybody appreciates you. Someone would have picked you. It's nothing personal. It's just personal impact, right? So my top five. My first pick was Gary Goodson. Second was Sexton in language arts. Third was Miss Brown. Fourth, Coach B. Fifth, Heron. That's thank you to all of them.
Yeah, once again, thank you to all teachers, whether we picked you or not. You have an impact on every kid's life here that you teach, whether that's positive or negative. It's up to you to decide for the future generations of kids that come up here next year. But my very first pick, my top five teachers from the science department, Miss Cannon. Social studies was Ben Thacker. And my electives was Miss Irvin at third. My fourth was math with Dr. G, and my fifth was Miss Ward from language arts. And you can let us know how we did. If you want to see more of this, you can leave a comment and subscribe, do whatever you want. No one's forcing you, but it'd be appreciated, especially if you want to see something like this from the seniors next year. And thank you again for watching. And thank you to all teachers.